Guys, so I got back from San Diego. Okay, so this is what happened. So I filmed too much. Oh, yeah. I filmed too much video, so I just decided to put all my clips together. And so, yeah. I hope you guys enjoy. One more thing, guys. They won't be in order. Okay. I don't know if they will or not. We'll just see when I put the clips together. So, yeah.
It's a meal. Está bebiendo la meal.
That's the Stennis. Home ported in Bremerton, Washington, but must be down here for some kind of training. We have two home ported here, the Carl Vincent and the Theodore Roosevelt, but they're both deployed down to the Western Pacific. The question comes up quite often about the comparison between Midway and those newer carriers. Midway's, well, they're about 100 feet longer than the Midway. They have a crew of almost 6,000. We had a crew of about 4,500. But we both run on steam. They heat the water to make the steam with nuclear rods that are changed every 25 years. We heat the water here with boilers and a fuel similar to diesel. And when we're out operating at sea, we need to refuel probably at least once a week, maybe more often than that. All right, this is our last stop on our island tour. We call this the navigation bridge, and that normally just gets shortened to bridge, but this is where all command and control takes place once the ship leaves the dock, once we're underway. You're normally going to find the captain up here because, of course, he's responsible for everything and everyone on board his ship. He has a nice big swivel chair over here marked CO for commanding officer. No one's ever allowed to sit in that chair except the captain. Boy, are they promoting them young? You're fine right there, young man. The captain's here almost all the time, but basically he just observes. He's designated in writing after they've been properly trained. Officers come up. They stand a 4-hour watch here as the officer of the deck. The officer of the deck does have written orders from the captain, the plan of the day from the executive officer. He basically runs the ship for his 4-hour watch. Quite typically, there'll be 3 or 4 other officers on the watch team. They're usually in training to become officers of the deck. That training responsibility falls to the navigator. He has a nice big swivel chair over there. We have it marked Gator, navigator. One of those officers, though, we're going to designate him to be the junior officer of the watch. He's got radar here. We have lots of lookouts all around the ship, and we have a lot of radar in the Combat Information Center. His responsibility, other surface vessels. We have a board back here. We use the acronym SCUNK, Surface Contacts Unknown. I like to point that board out again because, like up in Firefly, the sailor who mans it stands behind that board and writes backwards. So he's not standing between me and the board if I'm the officer of the deck. And that junior officer of the watch, sole responsibility, making sure we don't get midway on a collision, of course, with some other surface vessel. Very touchy subject, maybe the last year or so for sure. And then one of us up here gets tasked with having the con, meaning we have control of the ship's direction and the ship's speed. Only one officer up here at any given moment has the con. Captain might come up and say, "This is the captain, I have the con." Maybe he wants to just instruct his watch team. Maybe he's seeing something I'm missing if I'm the officer of the deck. I always say, you know, if I ever got to be captain, I'd like to run my own boat once in a while. It took me many years to get that chair, and some ensigns were here running the boat for me. But trying to emphasize that at any given moment, only one officer up here has the con. I'd like to step back now into the pilot house. I'll expand a little bit on that. Where I'm standing here, the watch team are officers. Now, when we get into the pilot house, the watch team are enlisted personnel. But he said he could, his shipmates on those boats could be as tall as 6'8", which surprises me, but I think we have everybody now. This area where we are now, we call this the chart room. The Navy doesn't have maps. The Navy has charts. On display here to my left, Tokyo Bay and Yokosuka, Japan. Midway was home ported in Yokosuka the last 17 years of its commissioned service. To my right here, San Diego Harbor. And then under the plexiglass there, Subic Bay in the Philippines, another very common stop in the Western Pacific for Navy ships. This department would be headed by the navigator. Again, the navigator on an aircraft carrier is always a naval aviator or naval flight officer, very senior commander with an assistant. But the everyday work, keeping track of the ship's position, was done primarily here by an enlisted rating called quartermasters. Quartermasters in some of the other U.S. services work in supply, but in the Navy they work here in navigation. Before the days of GPS, we kept track of the ship's position using three very fundamental methods, really. The first one, we called it piloting. We were in sight of land. We would designate certain landmarks, and we've done that on these charts for demonstration purposes. We would send those quartermasters out. On the mark of the senior watchstander here, on his mark, each quartermaster would take a bearing to his assigned landmark. The ship is on that bearing. We come down here, we plot those. Where they meet on my chart, we're going to call that a fix. That's where the ship was a couple of minutes ago. We took those bearings. Accuracy for pilotage ran on average around 100 feet. The ship's 1,000 feet long, so, plenty good enough for government work. We could do that same thing at night in bad weather with radar, as long as we could lock onto those landmarks. Same kind of accuracy. Eventually, though, of course, we're going to get out to sea where there are no landmarks, and so the second method was celestial navigation. Under the plexiglass there, that black unit is a sextant. There is a picture of one here on the acoustic chart. Around dawn or dusk, it being the best time, we have to have a horizon. We use that sextant to measure from the horizon up to the celestial body of the building. You need to have a very accurate time hand. You know the exact time we took those readings, because at that point, I had to come down here to go through some marine almanacs and some calculations to come up with, we're going to call them lines of position instead of bearings, but again, where they meet on my chart, that's where the ship was, probably, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes ago when we started this exercise, but out in the open ocean, really not an issue. And accuracy for celestial maybe 1 to 3 miles, again, depending on how busy people were with the sextant and how much the ship's moving when they're trying to take those readings. Eventually, though, we come up with radio navigation. All the way back here on the San Diego chart table, that last rectangular gray box there, we could receive radio signals from a system called Omega. Also could receive signals occasionally from the Navstar satellite. And the Navy eventually did have a GPS feed into that unit. Probably not quite as accurate as today's, but a big improvement over the previous. I can go back there, punch 2 buttons. Digitally, it reads out my latitude where I am now. 2 minutes to 15 minutes. And getting better and better all the time. 2 nuclear carriers in their home quarters here in Nashville with a very sophisticated GPS. It's very accurate. But I'm told that most commands maintain the proficiency of these quartermasters. Most big carriers are wartime vessels. You can't be guaranteed you're going to have GPS even available. The guarantee I can make to you folks is that when the captain says, "Where are we?" we ought to be able to tell them. We ought to be reasonably accurate about what we tell them. Lastly, this unit right here is called a fathometer, similar to a depth gauge on a fishing boat. We send a signal from the keel down to the bottom of the ocean, the bay or the harbor. This one we can select feet or fathoms, fathom being 6 feet. Navy charts, those little small numbers on the charts, are the depths of the water in feet or fathoms, depending on the scale of the chart. So now we have this newfound fix. We plotted it on our chart. We want to compare what the chart says the depth of the water is and what the fathometer is reading. We had to know one other very important item, and that was that from the keel to the water line, called the draft, was 35 feet midway's day, because we had to add that to his fathometer reading. I always had it manned, coming and going to port, looking for any kind of a negative trend. Anyone who would be unfortunate enough to run this 70,000-ton vessel onto a sandbar or run it aground would find his naval career severely shortened. Quite severely shortened. Our next stop is the bridge. Primary flight control. This is Midway Airport's air traffic control tower. We launch aircraft off the bow up there where you can see the big number 41 using 2 catapults. We recover aircraft back aft. We talk a little bit about that on the porch with the resting gear and tail hooks on the aircraft. This is part of the air department. You folks came aboard a little while ago on the hangar deck, part of the air department. Obviously everything on the flight deck, but it also includes some airspace over the ship within about 5 miles. So a lot of responsibility. The head of the air department always comes here after having had command of the Tailhook Squadron. So he's very experienced, very senior commander. We call him the air boss. He does have an assistant, same qualifications, but he gets tagged as being called the mini boss. The mini, though, back in Midway's time, if all went well, he could expect to move over to become the boss when the boss moved to his next assignment. Long hours for these two. Typical day, flying day, went anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. They have to come up early. They stay afterwards quite a while, so long days for them. They do have some enlisted people that come up, and they stand watches here. Talk about 3 of those. The first one mans this status board here. It's on hinges. Once the boss and the mini are seated, it swings out here behind them. The young sailor then that keeps that board up to date stands behind the board and writes backwards, so that he's not interfering with the view from the boss's side of that board. Another one mans this console. Very important. This sets a unit on the far side of the flight deck called a Fresnel lens. We send a beam of light back after the ship. Pilots use that as a visual glide slope as we come in to land. Tells us we're a little high, a little low, or right on. It has to be set differently, though, for each type of aircraft. The next aircraft to land might be my camouflage F-18 Hornet back there. He'll set it for the Hornet, and then he'll make an announcement to the air boss that the lens is set, Hornet. The air boss has to hear many things between the time the last aircraft lands, and he has what we call a ready deck for the next aircraft to land. We're going to try to get that interval in the daytime down to 45 seconds, and at night down to once a minute. The boss has to hear from several other sources, but the other one he needs to hear from up here mans this console. He doesn't set anything. He talks with sound phones down to 3 giant arresting gear engine rooms. They're down below the flight deck. If you look as far back as we can see on our flight deck, you can see the wings and the tail there of a big tanker. That's the biggest aircraft we have on our flight deck. And then over here on the port side, there's a little trainer over there that's orange and white. Each of those aircraft, when the hook engages the arresting gear, roll out the same distance, about 340 feet. We have to set the resistance down in the arresting gear engine rooms much differently to get the big heavy guys stopped in that same distance. We do that by setting what we call max trap weight. We don't land on aircraft carriers, we trap on aircraft carriers. I gave you the example earlier of the Hornet. I do have a cheat sheet here, so now I know that his max trap weight is 35,000 pounds. This sailor needs to see all 3 arresting gear engines set to 35,000, and then he's going to make that announcement. Arresting gear set for Hornet. Another one of those things the boss has to hear. Lastly, along the bulkhead there are some bins. There's going to be a naval aviator or naval officer, naval flight officer up here from each squadron that are flying during that cycle. In those bins, they have their aircraft manuals, their emergency procedures. They're here to provide their expertise to the air boss or the mini boss if they're asked. Otherwise, they're here to be seen and not heard. We, of course, need to give them some kind of a title. We call those guys tower flowers. You don't want to be a tower.
When we arrive,
I'm gonna
and then we'll bring it up to cargo and
Isn't it wild?
Imagine flipping a switch and
Run.
getting a bomb.
If I had a gunner sitting here.
Hey guys, so look at all so many planes and helicopters. So we just found a replica of a boat. See? Okay guys.
Where's everybody? Chloe, where's your photo card?
Hi guys, I might not talk
Turn it up, Brian.
I might not talk a whole lot in this.
I can get
So
it.
yeah. How did I hang this stuff up? Guys, this boat's humongous.
Is that in the way? Kind of. What's it called? I'll just pop it out.
Gotta get closer. What is that?
Hello.
Some on the back side.
Yeah, totally.
Some on the back side. If you point, here you go. Point, listen. Here, you come right here. Point to the green blinking light. Point and listen. Here you go. There's some on the back side. Everybody.
Okay, you guys enjoy your Guys, so we're at the USS Midway Museum. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. Okay.
Down there.
Caribou. Looks like they're going in our direction. These sensors detecting what appears to be polar bear activity. We're racing an Arctic storm, but I think we have time to take a little side trip. I'll set our rotors to whisper mode so we can get in close. Oh, look at that. A mother and her cubs. Let's leave them be. We're in luck. There's more animal activity on the other side of this glacier. If we hurry, we can take a look. Hang on.
100 feet.
White Thunder base. We're dropping underwater.
Oh man.
Water entry complete.
Whoa! That narwhal almost came in for a visit.
Storm warning.
Looks like that storm has picked up. We better get going.
Flying mode restored.
Don't want to scare those walkers. I have a warning indicator light flashing. Folks, we're sitting down on this glacier, and I'm shutting down until I check it out. Oh no. Oh no, the edge of this glacier can't hold our weight. Got to get rotors back. It won't start. Code red. Thrusters on. And pull us out of this. That was close.
Storm alert. Storm alert.
That storm front is trying to cut us off at the pass. Taking an emergency route.
Overheating.
Computer's out. We're on our own. We'll avoid these high winds by taking a path through this chasm. Hang on. It's an avalanche. Brace yourselves. We made it. This is White Thunder.
Great to hear from you, Captain. Thought you went down in the storm. We're looking forward to your visit.
And we're all looking forward to solid ground. We're coming in. Captain Emerson thanking you for flying White Thunder. I hope you all have a great time exploring Base Station Wild Arctic. Till next time, over and out. Please wait.
They paid a lot of money to go out there and touch the whale.
Why didn't you do that? Oh, it's because you're scared.
Let's go. Just stand down. Hurry up and stand there.
Oh no, if you see a
In its real natural habitat.
what?
You might see one of those tomorrow in its real natural habitat.
Maybe.
That's right, don't worry, be happy now. Don't worry, be happy now. You got a place to lay your head. Somebody came and took your neck. Don't worry, let me hear the right side over here. There you go, everybody. The night moment is late to do the hand to its gate, but don't worry. And let's do the left side now. There it is. Don't worry, be happy now. Don't worry, be happy now. If you got no cash, you got no style. Haven't got to make you smile. Don't worry, we're gonna be happy. 20 years sad, your face will frown. But we'll bring everybody down, so don't worry. One more time, please, my folks, be. That's right, don't worry, be happy now. Don't worry, be happy.
Want a bagel?
Don't worry, be happy now. Don't worry. Mahalo, everybody. For those of you just joining us, my name is Charlene, and welcome to Dolphin Amphitheater. Alrighty, folks, we have done our singing, but now I think we can use a little bit of brain stimulation through the form of a quiz. Get ready, because here's your first question. True or false? Dolphins have vocal cords. Think. How many think it's true dolphins have vocal cords? How many think it's false dolphins do not have vocal cords? Well, if you guessed false, then you are correct. Dolphins don't actually have vocal cords, but they make sounds through their blowhole and their mouth. Okay, everyone, here is your second question, and this one is multiple choice. How fast can a dolphin swim? Do you think A, 3 miles an hour, B, 14 miles an hour, or C, 22 miles an hour? How many of you think it's A, 3 miles an hour? How many think it's B, 14 miles an hour? How many think it's C, 22 miles an hour? Well, if you guessed B, give yourselves a round of applause. That was great. But wrong, because C was the right answer. Looks like I got you. Here is your last question and another true or false. Dolphins have hair. True or false? How many think it's true dolphins have hair? How many think it's false dolphins do not have hair? Well, if you guessed
here, you'll see orcas in their natural habitat.
Oh, this one's got a front fin.
And there's an orca killer whale. Picture. He just blew some water down to your boys. Watch the video over and then next time you pause it. I'm gonna start. We're drowning him.
See him?
Yeah.
He's following us.
We're drowning him with our waves.
He likes waves.
They look like swordfish.
Some right here. I'll try it here. Those two guys really good. Say that. They didn't come up on time.
Well, I have about 95 feet to the lake.
There's a bunch of them out there. There's gonna be some right here.
Dad, don't worry. I have film of this, so I'm gonna put a bunch of like since we're not gonna do vlogs or anything because I have way too many videos. I'm gonna put all my videos together and then I'm gonna upload them and then I'm gonna watch the video to find a bunch of dolphins.
Look down here out of hooks. See how cool that is?
And then I'm gonna pause the video and then I'm gonna take pictures. They're leaving. Bye bye, dolphins. Oh no, if you're coming back. Ooh. Dude, I think we just ran over dolphins.
It does look like it sometimes. Yeah. I'm like, oh. Yeah.
As a vineyard.